Led by President Nicolás Maduro, Venezuela began on Thursday the deployment of the Independence 200 plan in defense of sovereignty. The Brazilian Supreme Court found on Thursday former President Jair Bolsonaro guilty of plotting a military coup. And after 2 days of protests, the Nepali army lifted curfew as the military seeks to restore order and demonstrators discuss an interim government proposal. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We now begin with the information. In Venezuela on Thursday morning, President Nicolás Maduro began the deployment of the Independence 200 plan in defense of sovereignty under the slogan Active Resistance and Permanent Offensive. Surrounded by the military high command, President Maduro highlighted the popular military unit in the development of the operation, which will include surprise national mobilization exercises on the 284 fronts of action and battle to safeguard and defend Venezuela from any international interference and aggression in the face of recent threats from the United States that undermine the stability and peace of the Venezuelan people.
We have established a control point in this Independence 200 operation with three fundamental guidelines: the comprehensive defense of the homeland in perfect union between the people, the military, and the police. Active resistance, not passive resistance, but active, creative resistance, establishing positions, protecting the people. The people save the people. The people protect the people, the armed people.
And the head of state confirmed that during this national defense operation, 284 action fronts have been established throughout the country.
There are 284 simultaneous fronts of action, out of thousands that are planned with a permanent operation that has been strengthening the capacity to exercise sovereignty in our land, in our rivers, our seas, our skies, to exercise sovereignty.
And Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez reiterated the commitment of the Venezuelan authorities to defend the nation.
To the vassal governments, the United States Department of War, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the government of Guyana, take it easy, don't you dare and don't even think about it. You are lending yourselves to the perverse plans of aggression against the people of Bolivar, but also presidents are lending themselves to destabilizing the entire Caribbean and this continent.
And regarding the deployment of the Territorial Maritime and Air Defense Plan in Venezuela, the Minister of the Interior, Diosdado Cabello, emphasized that the people are fighting to preserve their independence.
We know who the historical enemy of the people is. The historical enemy fears popular mobilization. It knows that here in Venezuela, or should know by now, that anything it does will not be a one-day affair. It will cost them a lot of blood. It will cost them a lot of sacrifice. And in the end, thanks to the dignity, thanks to the morale of our people, and to a struggle that has all the characteristics of justice, we are not fighting against an enemy that we want to conquer. We are fighting to preserve our independence and our sovereignty, which there are those who believe they can take away.
And the Venezuelan Minister of Defense, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, offered a balance of the security operations of the National Bolivarian Armed Forces deployed in 284 critical points in the country. Padrino Lopez reaffirmed that in the face of pressure and interference from the U.S., the armed forces are preparing to defend peace and fight on any terrain. In this regard, the minister referred to actions carried out as part of Operation Independence 200, focused on ensuring the sovereignty of the nation. Padrino reported that more than 8 million people were registered in the Bolivarian militia, demonstrating Venezuelans' commitment to active resistance and permanent offensive. And we go now to Argentina, where the President Javier Milei sent to Congress the veto to the university financing law, a measure that generated an immediate rejection and the call for a national strike of universities for September 12th. The executive argues that the university financing law addresses resources in a generic way without detailing necessary credit amounts or indicating how expenditures would be met if resources were limited. However, the university community emphasizes that this justification ignores the current university crisis and insisted on the need to approve the university financing law. A responsible instrument does not compromise the state fiscally. As an immediate response to the veto, the country's educator organizations announced a march for September 12th. Meanwhile, in Buenos Aires, workers at the Garrahan's Children's Hospital, belonging to the Association of Professionals and Technicians, called a 24-hour strike in protest against the presidential veto of the pediatric emergency law. The association announced that the strike will begin this Friday, September 12th, and will include the suspension of all activities at the Garrahan Hospital except for the inpatient and emergency areas. In addition, this Thursday, the union will hold a meeting to agree on the steps to be taken and propose for next Monday the holding of a press conference by all sectors that support the cause of Garrahan, public health, and the university as well. In other news, on Thursday afternoon, the Cuban Ministry of Energy and Mines reported a total recovery of the national power grid after it suffered an unexpected disconnection on Wednesday. In this regard, the National Energy Company specified that the continuous work of the specialists had managed to connect all provinces to the national electric grid. At a national level, over 1,000 megawatts have been generated as the work continues to connect the west and center microsystems with the eastern ones, aiming to fully restore the service nationwide. The Minister of Energy and Mines of the nation, Lázaro Guerra, assured the recovery advances towards the full unification of the system, while 5 out of the nation's 15 provinces remain without service. And now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with more information. Brazil's Supreme Court has reached a majority decision in its trial against former President Jair Bolsonaro. Our correspondent Brian Meir has more.
With the ruling from Supreme Court Minister Carmen Lúcia complete, the first working group of the Brazilian Supreme Court has just reached a majority opinion in the guilty verdict against Jair Bolsonaro and 7 of his cronies who have been accused of attempting to implement a military coup, a rupture with the democratic rule of law, forming an armed criminal organization, damage to public property, and damage to historic landmarks. Now, this is the first time in the history of Brazil that military leaders such as General Walter Braga Neto and General Augusto Helena, both also receiving the guilty verdicts today, have been convicted of attempting to plot a coup. Now, this has been going on for 130 years. There's a long history of military officers being involved in attempted and successful coup attempts over the years. This is the first time anyone has ever been given a guilty verdict. In addition, this is the first time a former president has been convicted of attempting to implement a coup. So now all eyes turn to Brasilia as the public awaits for the sentencing. If they decide, former President Bolsonaro and his cronies could get up to 44 years behind bars. Now, we don't know what's going to happen yet. There's still a ruling to come out by Cristiano Zanin, the last member of the working group, but a 3-to-1 majority opinion has been formed already. Jair Bolsonaro is officially guilty of attempting to implement a coup in Brazil.
And from this relevant piece of news, we go to Mexico City as the death toll after the explosion of a gas tanker in the Iztapalapa borough on Wednesday has increased to 8 people, with 94 injured. The latest update was shared by the head of government in the capital city, Clara Brugada, who reported that 4 injured had passed due to the severity of their wounds. Brugada also confirmed that 22 out of the remaining affected were still in critical conditions. Initial reports from the prosecutor's office state that the truck was carrying over 49,000 liters of gas when it overturned and exploded, impacting 28 nearby cars. In this context, the authority has started an investigation to clarify the causes of the accident, as President Claudia Sheinbaum assured the government is supporting those affected in everything that is needed.
Since yesterday, we have been close and with the teams, together with the head of government, due to the unfortunate event, the accident that occurred yesterday in Iztapalapa. The 3 comrades of the health systems have been very much in touch. Obviously, along the Secretary of Defense, Navy, and the National Coordinator of Civil Protection, Laura Velasquez, who was there from the very first moment. We are supporting in everything that is needed. Our solidarity to all those families who lost a loved one. And for whatever is needed, we will be there. We will be very attentive.
And after the day of protest on Wednesday, the Ministry of the Interior of France reported at least 675 arrests nationwide due to clashes between demonstrators and law enforcement. According to authorities, the people were detained in a procedure that allows confinement for up to 24 hours, but which may be prolonged upon review of the crimes in which they were involved. The reports also informed that during the day of protest, the demonstrators carried out road blockades. And among other activities, the anti-government march involved some 200,000 people supported by the leftist parties and unions in rejection of economic policies. In Nepal, after 2 days of violent anti-government protests, the army lifted curfew as the military seeks to restore order. In this scenario, the army took control of Kathmandu and patrolled the streets while representatives of the protesters engaged in dialogue with military officials. Following a virtual meeting attended by over 300 protest movement participants, the proposal to appoint the popular former Chief Justice Sushila Karaki as leader of the interim government was upheld. The protest, which left nearly 30 people dead and over 1,000 injured, led to the resignation of Prime Minister Sharma Oli. And on Thursday in the Philippines, hundreds of protesters gathered in front of the EDSA shrine to reject corruption in the management of flood control projects. The protest took place after a Senate hearing where construction company owners admitted to bribing lawmakers and officials to obtain funds for irregular infrastructure projects for flood control. Protesters denounced what they called as theft of the people's money and demanded prison for those involved. In this context, according to the Department of Budget, between 2023 and 2025, the country's economy lost $2 billion caused by flooding-related corruption. The Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. announced the formation of an investigative commission to clarify corruption in public works projects aimed at disaster prevention. And the Democratic Republic of the Congo strengthens mutual cooperation relations with Kazakhstan during President Felix Tshisekedi's official visit to Astana. At the negotiations held at the Accorda Presidential Palace in the presence of the foreign ministers of both countries, the results of the various political and diplomatic consultations were agreed upon. In the course of the talks, the participants focused on issues related to the advancement of bilateral trade, collaboration in logistics, agriculture, digitalization, and information technology. Both leaders assured that this new partnership takes relations between Kinshasa and Astana to a new level with the intention of establishing an effective collaboration. And in other news, 6 people trapped in a coal mine in China's Heilongjiang province were successfully rescued on Thursday, almost 30 hours after they were first reported missing. Mining activity triggered an incident at a fully coal mine, causing serious damage to several tunnel sections and trapping 6 miners. Rescue teams worked tirelessly over the past 24 hours to secure the area and reach the trapped workers, and have now confirmed that the rescue operation is complete. Now we have a second short break coming up, but before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow our page and activate notifications to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with more information. In this case, we go to Palestine because the number of people killed by the Israeli regime in the Gaza Strip exceeds to 64,656, while the number of injured rises to 163,500. Gaza health authorities reported in a statement that in the last 24 hours, 41 civilians have been killed and 184 have been injured in recent attacks by the Israeli occupation. The Tel Aviv Air Force deployed dozens of aircraft against the city of Gaza during the so-called Operation Gideon Chariots II, targeting more than 360 objectives. The Zionist army again warned of a future attack in northern Gaza, forcing residents of this region to evacuate the area immediately. 19 children from Gaza in need of urgent medical care arrived in Jordan on Wednesday, accompanied by 47 family members and accompanying personnel as well. This is the 11th group of children from Gaza to be transferred to Jordan for medical treatment as part of the Jordanian Medical Corridor Initiative, which aims to support Palestinians. After receiving treatment, these children will return to Gaza with their families, while Jordan prepares to receive new patients under the initiative, which is implemented in cooperation with the World Health Organization. It is important to remember that the Zionist regime's blockade of Gaza has caused hospitals to collapse, making it impossible for these children to receive their medical care through other means. Meanwhile, Israel has delayed negotiations for the release of hostages in the Gaza Strip following the attack in Doha, the capital of Qatar, against the leaders of the Palestinian Resistance Movement, Hamas. Both the Palestinian Resistance Movement and Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani have condemned the attack, declaring that Netanyahu has destroyed any hope of negotiation to secure the release of the hostages. Meanwhile, Qatar is expected to host an emergency Islamic Arab summit on Sunday and Monday of next week to address the repercussions of the attack on its capital, Doha. The nation has also announced that it will take the necessary legal measures in response to the Israeli attack on its territory. Precisely, the funeral for the victims of the Israeli attack on Doha was held in the Qatari city on Thursday. The service that took place at the main state mosque was attended by hundreds of Qataris, including officials, among them the nation's ruling emir, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. The bodies of the 6 victims of the Zionist strike were carried into the mosque, covered with the Palestinian and Qatari flags. In this context, the Interior Ministry of Qatar also informed that after the funeral, the victims would be buried in the Mesaimir cemetery. And the Palestinian resistance movement, Hamas, condemned the Israeli strikes on Doha, stating that they were an assassination of the entire negotiation process.
This crime was not merely an assassination attempt on the delegation, but an assassination of the entire negotiation process, and a deliberate targeting of the brotherly intermediary nations, Qatar and Egypt. We affirm that the U.S. is fully complicit in this crime, bearing political and moral responsibility for providing cover and continuous support for the occupation's aggression and ongoing crimes against our people.
And thousands of people demonstrated in the streets of Tel Aviv in Israel to protest against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plan to escalate aggressions against the Gaza Strip, one day after the Zionist regime promised to take the city of Gaza and extend the onslaught. Thousands of Israelis mobilized in the capital to call for an end to the Palestinian siege. Demonstrators displayed photos of those detained by the Palestinian resistance, demanding their safe return, and request that keeps being hindered by the genocidal actions of the Israeli government, which keeps escalating aggressions and halting ceasefire negotiations. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For telesur English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.